What if there was an Android smartphone whose only major crime was looking like an iPhone? Okay, a lot like an iPhone. I'm Michael Fisher with Pocketnow, and this is our video review of the HTC One A9. There's no getting around it. The HTC One A9 is a dead ringer for Apple's iPhone 6. From the camera module design, to the medium radius corners, to the flat back and front with rounded edges, to the inlaid antenna bands that HTC introduced but Apple made famous, there's really no denying it. HTC has sacrificed a legacy of unique design in order to produce an iPhone clone. That's the bad news. The good news is, if you disagree, or you just don't care about that, this is a staggeringly good Android handset, with an impressive price to match. The One A9 comes in 3 shades of aluminum with either a white or black faceplate protected by Gorilla Glass 4. As we mentioned in our hands-on video, HTC has gone far afield of its previous designs here, eliminating all hard edges and putting its focus back on the details, like a power standby button that's so heavily textured that you can't possibly confuse it with the volume rocker. The phone is about as tall as the One M9 it replaces, but it's much thinner and lighter. And that, plus the new rounded finish, makes it feel much smaller in the hand. HTC did eliminate the grippy finish from the M9 though, so the A9 is just as slippery as most other aluminum phones. A capacitive fingerprint scanner doubles as a home key to wake up the device. In keeping with most current biometric sensors, it's quite fast and accurate, and it's augmented not by capacitive keys but instead by software buttons on its 5-inch display. This display breaks from long HTC tradition in that it uses AMOLED technology instead of Super LCD, with the resulting higher contrast and saturation that we've come to know and love, and it also sticks with full HD resolution. At 5 inches, that makes for a plenty high pixel density of 440 ppi, so while we're making iPhone comparisons, we may as well point out that in both of those metrics, the One A9 beats Apple's so-called Retina display on the 6S. Running on that screen is Android Marshmallow underneath HTC Sense 7.0. You can find our full impressions of Marshmallow in our Nexus 6P review over at Pocketnow. As far as Sense goes, HTC says it's committed to slimming down its software layer this year. But even if it hadn't, we'd probably have few complaints. Unlike some third-party interfaces, Sense has a unified look and feel that complements Android quite well, and it doesn't impair Android's smooth flow. The One A9's software experience is as buttery smooth as you could ask for. HTC's house cleaning has reduced the number of duplicate features and apps, but the high points of Sense are still here, and they're still really nice. Blink Feed does a nice job aggregating social and news feeds into one single stream list. You can still wake the phone using a variety of taps and swipes if you don't want to use the fingerprint scanner. The lock screen will still let you know about local dining opportunities at mealtimes if you wanted to. And you can change the look and feel of the entire phone by applying a theme. If anything, HTC was a little too aggressive in chopping away at Sense. Useful shortcuts like the notification shade toggle are gone now. The upside to this is that all those little trims and tucks should help HTC deliver on its promise of speedy Android updates. Specifically, updates delivered no more than 15 days after Google releases them. HTC says it spent more time and effort than ever before to build a solid camera here. This is a 13-megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture, and it brings OIS back to the One family for the first time in 2 generations. And the viewfinder now has a full pro shooting mode with RAW support. As for the photos, if you give it enough light and color, the One A9 is capable of pictures ranging from pretty to quite beautiful. But that's the case with essentially every smartphone camera these days. In ideal conditions, you basically can't miss. So if your shooting is confined to Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat posts, hey, you'll be fine with the One A9. But shooting with this phone in one hand and the Nexus 6P in another, we're hard-pressed to find any example where HTC outperforms. Where the other phone can pull quite a bit of light from the darkness, the One A9 struggles to produce anything worthwhile. In some nighttime scenes with a little more light, the One A9 can sometimes kick out a photo with substantially better color reproduction. But those occasions are far from the norm. In general, the A9's photos are too noisy, with too little dynamic range. Its focus is too slow to keep up with moving subjects, and all these problems just get worse the dimmer the light gets. In video mode, which maxes out at 1080p, optical stabilization does a good job of smoothing the footage without requiring cropping, and while there's a little bit of focus hunting at times, it's not too bad. Again, what kills this for us is excessive digital noise and flat color reproduction, which often makes a scene look dead. These are complaints which also extend to the ultra-pixel shooter on the front side, by the way, though here at least HTC gets to bring its low-light prowess to bear for brighter photos. HTC gets to make up some ground here. The battery is tiny for an Android flagship, but between Marshmallow's power-saving features and HTC's own optimizations, we're usually able to make it through a day of moderate use with almost 4 hours of screen-on time to report. Of course, any kind of heavy usage will require you to top up throughout the day, but the Quick Charge 2.0 compatibility makes charge times very fast, and they'll get even faster when HTC enables Quick Charge 3.0 with a software update sometime after release. The fact that HTC doesn't include a 3.0 compatible charger in the box is evidence of corner cutting, and maybe that's also responsible for the use of the Snapdragon 617 processor instead of something a little more high-end. But the 617 is what enables that super fast charging, and though dedicated gamers might be able to tell the difference in performance between the A9 and a higher-end device, we certainly can't. Really, what we miss more are the boom sound speakers. That lone bottom-firing driver is nothing special, and neither is noise cancellation. The A9 had a tough time eliminating train station announcements in the background while we were carrying on a phone call. But those cut corners allow for a competitive price point, at least in North America. The One A9 will sell for $399 in the US in just one configuration, a 32GB model with 3 gigs of RAM and microSD expansion. That's a lot of phone for $400, and when you factor in the excellent build quality and software experience, it makes for quite a compelling package. There are other worthwhile contenders in the same segment, of course. The Moto X Pure Edition and OnePlus 2 come to mind, but those are for people who want huge phones. The One A9 is a more delicate alternative for someone who wants the high-end feel of an iPhone and the flexibility of Android at a sensible price. While it's unfortunate that HTC chose to sacrifice its proud design legacy, the result is an Android smartphone that's intriguing for many of the same reasons HTC phones have always been intriguing. Beautiful fit and finish and exquisite attention to detail that's a pleasure to use, so long as you can get past that camera.
Stop the presses. The day before this review went live, HTC informed us that the $399 promotional pricing for the North American One A9 would end rather sooner than we expected. The actual price, which will take effect November 7th, is $499 in the US. That still makes the A9 cheaper than some of its forerunners on launch day, and it's still significantly cheaper than the most recent iPhone. But it also means the A9 is now competing for your dollars with the likes of the excellent Nexus 6P. That doesn't give the Nexus an automatic win if you have smaller hands or just different aesthetic preferences, or you like HTC Sense, or you like any of the other value adds that HTC is bringing to the table. Well, the One A9 is still the better option for you. But it does make the question of whether you should buy the A9 over any of the other phones in its category a little cloudier. Needless to say, if you really do want the One A9 and you're seeing this before November 7th, you should head over to htc.com sooner rather than later.
For much more on the One A9, folks, check out our written review at Pocketnow.com. And hey, follow us on social media. We're at Pocketnow on most channels, and I, Michael Fisher, am at Captain2Phones. It's Captain, the number 2 phones. In the interim, thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with more videos very soon. We'll see you next time.